Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we've got another Pictures Worth 1,000 Words. This one is from a series that's taken at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. It was probably taken in late 1967 while the ship was being reactivated for Vietnam. Now, this picture is really cool because it shows the installation of the flight deck. Battleship New Jersey always operated aircraft, and starting around 1950 when she's reactivated for the Korean War, that aircraft would have been a helicopter. However, as helicopters grew in size and capability, New Jersey went from just operating them off of her normal wooden teak deck to having an actual flight deck built up on the stern of the ship. Now, the stern of New Jersey actually has a little bit of a rise in it, and so the flight deck, it actually flattens that out. If you come and visit, you'll see that it stands, I don't know, maybe 6 inches proud at the aft end, but significantly taller on the forward end. And there's an air gap under there, and one of the things I always wondered about was, how is it made? Is it just a flat piece of steel that basically goes over the wood? Did they remove the wood, or God forbid, is there still old teak under there holding water and rotting away? Well, this picture seems to indicate that they've ripped up the wood deck. They've laid a number of frames. They seem to have roughly a 4-foot spacing for these longitudinal frames for the flight deck, which is the same as the frame spacing for the rest of the battleship. And more importantly, it means that a standard 4x8 sheet of steel can bridge the gap between frames. And so it's being supported. So when a heavy helicopter, like these things can take Sea Stallions, Chinooks, any of those sorts of things. And some of the really heavy helicopters, it's not going to cause that deck to sag because there's significant framing under it. Interestingly, here it looks like they have laid down the plates every other strake, and then they'll come back and lay the other ones, it appears. Some other real interesting things you can see in this footage is we've still got the director tubs back aft for those 40mm gun tubs. The 40mm gun tubs really pop out because you can see that they've been chipped and repainted, and right now you can see the red lead primer has been put down. Those gun tubs, being a low spot, almost certainly had water sitting in them for the roughly decade that the battleship sat in mothballs since her Korean commissioning to now. And so that's one of those main areas that they've got to work on. And you can see that that's already a work in progress, but right behind them and a little bit above them, you can see those director tubes. New Jersey gets some slightly larger director tubes back aft for in the 1950s, preparatory to getting her 40mm guns replaced with 3-inch guns. That change never happens. However, some of the associated directors are installed, and they do work with both styles of guns. These tubs, tubs will be removed, the director control tubs, and that will clear up some of the flight deck. Interestingly, you can also see the ship's boat crane has been stood up. While the ship was in mothballs, it's laid flat on the deck, so there's no tension on the cables that hold it up. But they've got it cranked up as part of the reactivation here, and people always assume that that is removed when we start operating helicopters, but during the Vietnam War, and the Korean War for that matter, it is retained because it's how we got the ship's boats into the water. During helicopter operations, it would simply be rotated around the stern of the ship. In the 1980s, to simplify helicopter operations, they get rid of it entirely and add a boat boom to the aft port superstructure for getting the boats in the water. What I think is the most interesting thing about this picture is if you look at the very top edge of the gunnel, the very top edge of the hull, on the port side, it's my left-hand side of the picture, I think it'll be your left-hand side as you're watching this too, you can see that it is dented in for, I don't know, maybe the last 4 feet of the ship that we can see. And that dent continues down the rail an unknown amount because it's off of frame. You can see the knuckle on the top of that section of hull is dented in. That's where it's really easy to see. Anyway, this is really cool. It may be evidence of World War II era damage. We did a video quite a while ago now, we'll link it in the description below, where we talked about having found in the ship's deck logs that New Jersey collided with a destroyer, USS Coulihan, during World War II. They were doing a movie transfer at 25 knots, and New Jersey's prop wash back there caused enough difficulty for Coulihan's navigating that she crashes into the stern of the ship from roughly frame 160 to frame 180, if I remember correctly. And it doesn't do much damage to New Jersey. I think Coulihan loses one of her anchors. But New Jersey, it just like caves in part of the bulwark, and it might have knocked out some of the ship's railings as well. Anyway, in the video, we talk about how, in that previous video, we talk about how that's been like cut out and fixed, so it's not dented anymore. Well, here it's still dented. So now I got to go and look at other pictures at some point in the future and see if New Jersey has a dent here in the port side, all the way from World War II to Vietnam, or if this dent might show up later. Looking at it now, you know, it wasn't fixed right away. So if this is that World War II damage, so that might mean that it was damage sustained at a later time. New Jersey was nested with in between Iowa and Wisconsin here at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. And there would be Yokohama fenders between them, but you know, maybe something happened and they collided, and that's why this is damaged. Maybe it was something with a tugboat or some other vessel moving the ship. This is roughly 30 feet above the waterline here, so it would have to be something standing relatively tall but also projecting out. So it may well be evidence of that World War II damage that no longer really exists. Anyway, I just think it's really cool that this may well be evidence of that World War II damage that we're still seeing in the 60s that has since been repaired. It's interesting that they spent the time and energy to repair that. Otherwise, you can see some welders out on deck. You can see some CO2 fire extinguishers from the fire watch out on deck. You can see some big yellow spotlights out on deck, indicating that they're working around the clock here potentially. They're certainly working after dark. But what else do you see in this picture? Let us know in the comment section down below. Some really cool features here that no longer exist anymore. This picture was taken in dry dock number 3 at the Philadelphia Navy Yard in 1967. If you'd like to hear about our 2024 dry docking in dry dock number 3 at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, we've got a screening of the museum's documentary about dry docking on July 31st at 6 p.m. There's a link in the description below to get tickets. They're $5 a piece. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to donate to support the museum. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.